the truth often hurts. And in an industry that exists to make dreams come true, no matter the cost, it's no wonder that it's commonplace for many vendors to blur the lines a little and to tell engaged couples what they want to hear. However, this is unequivocally not the case with my guest today. I first learned that Laura existed through a reel that was recommended in my Instagram feed, and it was titled, Advice I'd Give You as a Wedding Planner If I Weren't Afraid of Hurting Your Feelings. Now, I, like I'm sure you, have seen these reels before, and they are super lightweight with the kind of advice like, make sure you find time to eat on your wedding day. Yep, got that covered. And keep a pair of runners in a bag so you can change into them later in the night. I mean, they're true and okay, not exactly groundbreaking though. But Laura's advice was exceptionally transparent and very, very timely, given the bloated client expectations that many of us have noticed increasing in the last couple of years. So I reached out to her and I asked if she'd like to elaborate on this post further, and as luck would have it for you and for me, she agreed. I feel like her wedding planning advice is how weddings need to be viewed now. And I love that one of her favourite sayings is design for feeling, not for aesthetics. And this coming from a luxury planner that works with budgets in the millions of dollars. She had my vote right there. So get ready for some tough love, because these are facts, and sometimes we just need a reset on what this wedding thing is all about, right? Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, same. Meeting for the first time on opposite ends of the world. Laura caught my eye on Instagram because I don't know if it's controversial, but she put some pretty hard facts out there. And I just thought, oh my God, these so need to be said to or for my podcast listeners. But we'll get to that in a sec. Laura, tell the listener who you are, what you're doing.
So my name's Laura. I'm the director at Couture Events Worldwide. So we are a luxury wedding and event planning company. We're based in Dubai. We've been around since 2004. So I'd say we're definitely one of the sort of leading planning companies here. We do all kinds of things from weddings, social events, corporate events. We work with huge brands such as Emirates Airlines. We've worked with Vogue Arabia. So best believe I've seen it all. To say the least.
Yeah, I get that impression, Laura, that if you haven't seen it, it hasn't been done.
Yeah, for sure. And especially this side of the world as well, where, you can really see the most luxurious things in the industry going on. And we've seen everything from intimate weddings for 9 people up until huge celebrations for over 1,000. So the sky's the limit, really. It truly is.
Yeah. But what really caught my eye, Laura, in this Instagram post, and, it was a couple of months ago now, you just really got down to brass tacks and just went, you need to know this. If you're planning a wedding, you need to know this.
100%.
And the number one thing was the planner's role.
Mm-hmm.
Because you said if you don't hire a planner, you become the planner, except in a wedding dress.
Facts. Now, for me, I think one of the biggest things that I try to do in my role and on the side, should mention we co-founded a wedding education platform last year. And this is partly the reason I feel like there's a massive lack of understanding and a lack of education in the industry, not only for people wanting to break into the industry, but also, brides, people that are planning a wedding, right? And I don't obviously blame anyone. If you're not a professional, it's there's a lack of information online. So that's what I think us vendors should really take that responsibility and run with it and see if we can educate people as much as we possibly can. And although I understand that having a planner isn't necessarily in everybody's budget, it's important to realize that if you don't have somebody fulfill that role, then somebody needs to do that role. And if you are the lead decision maker, if you are doing things sort of DIY, you're sourcing all the vendors yourself, you're handling all the contracts, you're handling the on-the-day coordination, then you really need to sit down and understand exactly what that entails. And a lot of people, and I see this as well, even from our students in the academy that are aspiring to become wedding planners, a lot of people see the wedding planning role as a surface level role. They see all the pretty.
Oh my gosh, you must crush dreams, Laura.
I want to be realistic. That's the thing, especially if people are aspiring to come into the industry. It's not, you have to work hard. You have to work really,
Mm.
really hard. And yeah, of course, we make things look beautiful. There's a whole Pinterest side of things, and there's the emotional side of things, and there's this dream job. But also, you need to see what goes on behind the scenes. Fixing things when things go wrong. It's having backup plans for the backup plans for the backup
Yes.
plan. It's dealing with amazing people and not so amazing people. It's all of these things. And from my perspective, when you, hopefully we only do this once, but when you have one shot at a wedding day, I don't see why you'd want to take that risk to be that person, because there's a lot of things that people don't also think about as well. Like, for example, the cognitive overload. When you become the lead decision maker on the day and you become sort of the end result for everybody's drama, that's what you end up remembering. And all of that overload kind of overshadows your memories for the day. So you don't remember what actually happened. You remember the problems that you solved on the day.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Your memory. So that's just something to bear in mind. And it's not just even the surface level things such as fixing things that might potentially go wrong. It's the social politics on the day as well. The decision maker is who everybody comes to. And when that decision maker is the couple themselves, this is when things really get slowed down, because a wedding planner or a vendor or maybe somebody who works for a venue, they have the authority and the experience to give a yes or no or take risks. People tend to delay things a little bit and wait for things to get a little bit worse before they approach the bride or groom, because
no one wants to approach them.
exactly, they don't want to keep interrupting them. So by the time a problem has actually escalated to you as the decision maker, it could be past the point of fixing. Whereas if you had a behind the scenes vendor to handle it there and then, you can potentially predict something's going to happen and nip it in the bud before it gets worse.
Such good points, Laura. Really, really good. I mean, I think a lot of couples are really surprised how in depth it is. I think there's a perception on the outside that it's a party with some legal paperwork, and
Yeah.
it's unlike any other celebration, I think. But I mean, you're the professional planner. When you do other events, when you do corporate events and things like that, does it change for you?
In terms of the role and how things are
Mm.
handled. Not necessarily. I always say, and this is what we say in the academy as well, if you can plan a wedding, you can plan anything. At the end of the day, weddings, I'd say, are probably the most difficult, because it's not just decisions that need to be made, it's the emotional factor that you need to
Mm.
consider. There's a lot of sort of family dramas, seat and plan issues, all of that kind of thing. And it's not just, again, it's a once in a lifetime thing. So you got to think how the decisions that you're making are going to impact the day and impact the clients that you're working with. Whereas with corporates, it can be somewhat easier to kind of cover things up or
Mm.
pivot or swift, and or maybe if it's a return business, okay, next time we're going to do it differently. There might always be a
Yes.
next time. But weddings, you don't have that luxury, unfortunately. So
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, you can end up being the planner in a wedding dress.
yeah.
I mean, you made a really valid point, Laura. A planner's not in everyone's budget.
Mhm.
So, for that couple that don't have the budget for a planner, what's the next best thing for them, do you think?
Well, a lot of people talk about having a proxy. So
Mm.
sort of nominating someone on the day who can kind of be your decision maker, emergency contact, that kind of thing. But it's important to actually realize that by doing that, you're still having a planner or somebody to fulfill that role, but you're just asking one of your guests to do it for free.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what comes with being a proxy. There's a difference to, for example, like even with my clients, I still ask them, who is my emergency contact? Do you want it to be you guys? Do you want it to be, a family member, a friend? Because it's always important to have someone, God forbid, if we need to take something to them, it's important to understand who that person is. But there's a difference between that and having a proxy who is your designated person to fulfill that planner role. So essentially, they're doing it without the experience and without the money. Are they really going to take the role seriously? Are they actually just going to keep coming to you anyway because they don't know what to do? People get scared to make these kind of decisions.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something to bear in mind. So although it's nice to have the support and have a proxy, I think the best thing to do if having a planner is really, really out of the question is obviously be very wary of the venue that you're working with and the coordinator that's on your team within the venue. Look at your vendors, maybe perhaps look into having an MC or, an experienced run of show, somebody who can help sort of fill the gaps, direct you when they know the schedule of the running of the events. They can pull you to one side, or perhaps, okay, dinner's going to be a bit late. From my experience, let's do this, let's do one set of music now, and somebody on your side that can help in that kind of respect. And then from your side, again, if you're the bride or the groom and you're taking things in your stride and planning things yourself, I think one of the most important things to do before the wedding in the planning process is maybe to come up with some kind of flow chart, which you can hand to your vendors. So what do I mean by that? It's an if and then situation. If this happens, here's some scenarios. I hereby give you my approval to make these decisions on my behalf.
Yes.
Don't feel like you need to approach me. If the starters need to come out earlier, bring them out. It's fine.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're kind of predicting scenarios in advance, and then anything that does have to come to you on the day is unexpected and potentially, hopefully not, a little bit more serious.
Yeah, touch wood.
But all of the niggly things that might happen along the day, you've already bashed them out and you've made decisions kind of prior.
That's a brilliant idea, Laura. I really love that. So then point number 2 on your tell it like it is Instagram post was about what guests really remember. And you said that guests care most about a good meal, strong drinks, short speeches. But you also mentioned just before about the Pinterest effect, how that can sort of cloud the judgment a little bit and sort of infiltrate the most important decisions. And somehow you've ended up with, I don't know, some fantastic seating chart and maybe, not enough drinks. So how do you help your couples to balance that between what's really important and what just looks really pretty?
I think from my side, when working with a client, I think the biggest tactic I like to use is to show them the most all singing, all dancing version from the beginning. So what do I mean by that is obviously, of course, we're going to establish a budget in the consultation stages. We're going to talk through your vision and all that kind of thing. But I'm going to show you what I think that you're going to have seen online and show you the best version it could possibly be, the best things that we can do with that venue, all out decor, all out stationery. We're going to show you different options, really looks. And I'm going to give you a budget to coincide with that. Now, some people might think that that's double the work for me because I know in myself that it's going to be potentially out of the client's range, right? But actually, it works in my favor and in their favor because it prevents a lot of sort of questions along the way, and we kind of we take a red pen through that Pinterest effect from the get-go. So what you're doing is you're showing them, okay, this is, everything that you're seeing online, this is realistically what it's going to cost. And then we can kind of draw it back from there. And it really helps them to rein it in and be like, okay, I've seen how much that's going to set me back. And then we can start taking the red pen through the budget and thinking, is this necessary? Is this necessary? Is this necessary? And they start to prioritize and look at things realistically then. But what I always say as well is it's important to look at things from a percentage point of view as well. So in terms of your overall wedding budget, I'd always recommend around sort of 60% to go to your fundamentals. So what's that? So your sound and lighting, your F&B, your staffing, people that if they weren't there or if you had bad quality vendors are really going to make the biggest impact on the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where 60% of your budget needs to be going. Then 30% can go towards your decor. It can go to the storytelling. It can go through the personalization, the little intimate moments, stationery, all that kind of thing. Then 10% for contingencies and comfort. So again, planning ahead, looking at maybe it's a bit chilly. Do we need blankets? Do we need heat lamps? Do we need AC? Do we need fans? It's very hot over here, this side of the world. So
Yeah.
looking at all those kinds of things, because you might have the most gorgeous Pinterest-worthy wedding with those huge colour bomb fireworks that we've all seen, but if the guests are uncomfortable, if they're sliding off their chair, if they've got a wobbly chair, if it's hot, it's cold, that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember those beautiful things. So you've really got to rein it down and design for feeling. Design for feeling, not for the aesthetics, which is really hard because obviously we live in an online world nowadays.
Mm.
But I think you'll probably agree, anyone that's in the industry, the biggest job that we do is educating people and showing people that's how much that costs. People online, of course, they're going to show you the highlights, they show you the best, that's what goes viral. This is what makes it Pinterest worthy, right? And that doesn't come with a price tag. So it's important for us. We can look at an image. I can look at an image straight away and tell you a price range of how much that's going to cost from experience. But somebody who's doing this for the first time isn't going to realize that. And they might think it's possible. So
Education. I really like actually starting with the big picture, Laura, because of course, with most things, it's natural to go for the minimum and then you have your extras on top. But
yeah.
I really like how there's not going to be the shock factor, is there? You know,
Yeah.
because you're paring things back and they know exactly what they're getting. That's really clever. I like that.
Exactly. It calibrates your taste to cost, because what can potentially happen if your budget is X amount and then I show you something within that budget that's realistic and it's achievable. What that potentially does is set me up for the client to potentially think that I don't have the ideas or the creativity or the capability to do something beyond that. And they see things themselves and they're like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? And then it's constant disappointment along the way if they keep seeing things and I'm like, oh, you can't have that. You can't have that. You can't have that. If I show them from the beginning, the shiny object, this is what you're likely to see online and this is realistically how much it's going to cost to do that. Straight from the get-go, they have a comparison. People are very visual. So you need to show them a comparison of what's potentially a little bit out of their reach and what's realistic within their reach. Or how can we achieve that same effect that's going viral, but realistically within your budget or within your situation, within your venue for your guest count? How can we achieve, or how can we customize? How can we create something by ourselves that's going to give a similar effect? People think, as I said, it's double the work, but actually it prevents a lot of conversations that don't need to be had along the way.
Yeah, I bet. That's really good. And you were also saying, so this is along the same line, your third point on this post was about budget versus expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And you said your budget isn't necessarily small, your expectations are too large. So it sounds like that setting the vision from the start is really how you manage that. Is there anything else that you do to help your clients sort of, I don't know, get a grasp on what is achievable for them?
100%. I think it just goes back to the idea of people being very visual. That's the best way that you're going to tackle this in these situations, is just to show people realistically options that's achievable for them. And again, if they see something online, you give them lot figures. Just be transparent. Transparency is the way to win in this industry. And sometimes I feel like there's a lack of. And I actually got married a couple of years ago. We chose not to have a wedding. The wedding planner that didn't have a wedding. And I can imagine from a bride's point of view, it's really difficult because there's never any prices online. Vendors don't expose their prices. Of course, you need to get on calls with people, even with wedding venues. You need to get on calls with them. You need to talk, and it's obviously subject to each individual party, how many guests are involved and what prices they give you, and so on and so forth. And it's so I can imagine, I don't blame people for getting sucked into this Pinterest trap and their budget not aligning with their expectations, because anyone can be anything online, and anyone can portray anything online, and a lot of what you see might not even be a potential wedding. It might be a photo shoot that was
Yeah. Or now AI.
an AI.
It could
Exactly.
be fictional.
Exactly. We have this a lot, especially, yeah, I'd say over the past sort of year or so. There's a lot of cases of people bringing AI images to us, and some of them are so realistic. If you're not professional, if you're not within the industry, it'd be really hard to tell the difference, because from our perspective, we can see if something's actually structurally possible to build.
Yes.
You see that.
Within the confines of gravity and being on
Exactly.
this planet. Yes.
Exactly. Sometimes you see, especially these images that are going around of these big kind of like waving fabric structures, and
Yes.
they're outdoors, and you think,
And they don't move.
no wind, there's no nothing, it's not weighted, it's an airy fabric,
Yeah.
a gust of wind, and that's a kite, it's not a
Yeah,
structure.
that's a big sail.
Yeah, yeah. So it's things like that, and even in terms of Photoshop, we've had vendors, we've even had other planners use our images. Anyone can be anything online, so it's really, really difficult to trust what you see. So if in doubt, ask a professional.
The more questions I think a couple can ask, the better off they are. Because I feel like if you keep pursuing the truth and transparency and things like that, everything becomes evident. But
Yeah,
yeah, please don't trust on face value.
100%. And I think that goes for both the client and for the vendor as well. I mean, some people are afraid to be so transparent up front, but I think it actually prevents a lot of problems. And I'd say we've gotten to the point ourselves where we're quite fortunate to be quite selective with who we want to work with as well. And it does go both ways when you kind of reach that level within your sort of brand and your reputation. It goes both ways. And we obviously, how this works. One wrong thing can be detrimental to a brand or a business in the wedding industry. So obviously we need to protect ourselves as well. And transparency just, it helps with that from the get-go. Are we the right people for you? Are you the right people for us? Are we aligned? Can we sort of meet your expectations? And then from then on, it's smooth sailing if you've tackled those beginning questions and the consultations in the right way.
And I can tell, Laura, from this Instagram post alone, transparency all the way. And I love it. I just fucking love it. There is a real, yeah, not enough people are saying the truth. And it's not the time anymore. It's not the place. We really need to be a bit more upfront to gain the trust. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. And so, point number 4, you talked about the reality of DIY, which is much needed. And you said that DIY is trending, but you hinted that it might not make a huge difference and could even cause last minute stress.
Yeah.
What do you know? Share. If you had a sweary, chocolate-addicted, wine-sipping fairy godmother who could help you with your wedding planning, what would you wish for? Maybe no more spreadsheets or post-it notes or endless to-do lists. Well, I can help you with all of that. Websites is an Australian wedding website builder, guest management software, and wedding project planner all in one. Why is this such a game changer for you? Well, imagine everything to do with your wedding being in one place, updated in real time in the cloud, shareable to anyone else that's helping you, password protected for your guests, with notifications to tell you what needs to be done next and by when. It's amazing, right? To get started on your very own free wedding website, just head to wedsites.com. Or if you want to use Wedsites to plan your entire wedding and not just as an RSVP wedding website, click on the link in the show notes and you'll receive 10% off their paid planning tools. The link is right there in the show notes.
have a lot to say on DIY weddings. And actually, people came for me in the comments. Some people were saying they agree, but unless DIY is done properly. Now, I'm not anti DIY. That's not what I'm saying. And it's not what I said in the reel. But DIY that's done properly, and I'm not talking about your stationery or your little personalized items and that kind of thing. I'm talking about DIY building flower arches or seating plan structures or memory walls or whatever it might be.
Yeah, big scale, large scale.
Yeah. That's no longer craft, that's production.
Yes.
So at that
That's
stage,
stage production.
yeah, because when you think about DIY, you think about small craft hobbies, arts. You know, if you're building those kind of things and it's done properly how it's supposed to be done, that kind of thing should happen in a warehouse. It should be tested. It should have already sort of sustained different weather conditions. It should have already been on site on a wedding. How long are these things lasting? Are you building it for wind conditions? Are you building it for a child running along and knocking it? You know, are you thinking about all these things? Is it weighted? Is it fire resistant?
Yeah. Is it
There's so
compliant?
many,
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many things to consider, and people underestimate these kind of things and they think it's never going to happen to me, but it does. I've seen one bride had her sparklers fall on the floor, the grass set on fire. A colleague of ours in the industry, just hours before the wedding happened, her whole stage came crashing down because we had a lot of wind around that sort of time.
Oh my gosh.
So even to the most experienced people, anything can happen. So even we aren't too confident. You have to, like I said, make backup plans for the backup plans. And people get too confident. You might be Vincent van Gogh and you might be the best.
Sure.
You might be the best in arts and crafts, you know, good for you. But we're talking about people's jobs. People do these things for a living. And, you know, there's a lot of, like you said, procedures and compliances that need to go into building these kind of things, which people don't really look into. And then going back to my point about obviously stress and all of that, what I say is panic buying is a tax on DIY, and it's a hidden tax that people don't think about. So you might think, oh, brilliant, you know, I've managed to build this wall, a lick of paint, a couple of screws and a bit of plywood, and then I've got the same effect. But maybe it's arrived on site and a big chip has come off the wood and you need to replace it. Oh God, I've got no paint left. Quickly, let's send an Uber to the hardware store and get a paint, and then that Uber's cost you $100 or whatever, and you've got the lick of paint. And it's things that happen on the day. Oh, quick, can you get that? Can you get that? Whereas, yeah, okay, you might have saved yourself £50 by making it yourself rather than renting it. But by renting it, again, it's already been tested. It's then at the supplier's discretion. So the supplier can then come and fix it if something needs to be fixed. They have the materials in-house to already do it.
They're delivering it, taking it away.
Yeah, if you're DIYing something, are you thinking about not only the materials to build it, all the tools? Do you have all the screwdrivers? Do you have everything in-house? Do you have the sanders, everything?
Circular saws.
Yeah, all the things that are in a warehouse to build these kind of things. And that's obviously just talking about things on a bigger production scale. If we look at the smaller things, like things on the table, stationery, all of that, of course, by all means, DIY. I think it's beautiful when you add your own personalization into these things and a lot of thought goes into them. But still, don't be naive. Don't think that even those small items, you need backups, you need spares. I had a client that we did those velvet bows on the plates and the names
Beautiful.
printed. Gorgeous. Until I had a pigeon fly over and poo all over them. So you can't predict that's going to happen.
Who's anticipating that?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
You have to have spares. You have to have a network of vendors that you can call last minute and be like, listen, I need a bow with a name on in 15 minutes. Have you got my back? I've got your back.
Yeah.
That's what comes with hiring people that do this for a living. We don't just do what's on the surface. We don't just see designs and bring them to life and it's all pretty and it's all dandy. I'd say that's actually 20% of our roles as vendors, as planners. The other 80% is the network that I've built over time. It's the countless hours I've gone out speaking to people, vetting people, visiting warehouses. It's all these kind of things that go into it. When I recommend someone to a client, it's not I've seen somebody online and their work is great.
They look all right.
It's I've seen how they produce these things. I've seen how their materials last in real time. So yeah.
I can't agree more. Like, seriously, Laura, like, I think about the vendors that I recommend here in Australia, and
Mhm.
I don't, and I'm certain you don't take it lightly when you recommend someone because it's your reputation on the line. And for me, like, if I've been through fire with someone and they've stood the test of time, and I'm like, okay, yes, you're on my imaginary list, yeah, tick. You're a good one. You're a good one. You'll still be here when everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's about 20% is the pretty up the front, and the rest are people peddling like crazy behind the scenes to
That's
make
the
everything work.
that's the thing. And people, and it would probably be next on the list because I know that was one of the next points on my reel. But it's this whole sort of misconception about booking the cheapest vendors is the best solution, and it's obviously not always the case. And it's again being able to predict those scenarios and understand when something's potentially going to go wrong, or and knowing the type of questions to ask somebody as well. Because if you're excited, you're planning your wedding, you've got this beautiful design going on, you're not really thinking to think, is this fireproof? Is it compliant? Is it going to cause me any problems? Are the venue going to accept this? How am I going to take it down the following day? What's happening with all this wastage? Are we being sustainable here? It's all these kind of things that you're not realistically going to consider when you're excited about your wedding.
Spot on. And so let's delve a little bit deeper there, Laura. Number 5, mindful inspiration and vendor choices. So you were saying you were cautioning against booking vendors solely on price and also warning about the endless scroll. When
Yeah.
you choose something and, you've got the thing, could be a dress, could be, I don't know, your floral inspiration, it's all set out, but you keep scrolling. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, well, what do you say to couples to help them avoid that comparison trap?
I think, first of all, to tackle the booking vendors solely on price, that topic, that goes both ways. I don't just mean booking somebody who's cheap. I also mean booking the most expensive. Even booking the most expensive vendor doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the best, right? Somebody who's an entry-level planner could come into the industry and decide that they want to position themselves as a premier planner and go after the luxury market. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting the best, right? So which is difficult because there's not really a framework to follow in order to find your
Mm,
vendors. But the biggest advice that I give my clients and anybody that's planning a wedding is to look at somebody's network. So, can you ring a venue and ask about this person? Have they worked with this person before? Can you ring suppliers in the market? What do they have to say? Look at their social media. Who are they connected with? Go on their LinkedIn profiles. What kind of people are associating with them? If they're in the corporate space, what kind of brands are trusting these
yeah.
people?
Oh, that's a good one.
That has a lot to say about the person that you're dealing with, as opposed to, because as I said, going back to the point that anyone can be anyone online. We have access to all of these images. We have access to AI. Right now I could go and create myself a website and it could all be AI images, or find the work of some random planner in Florida, and who's going to know, right? Who's going to know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to trust what's coming out of that individual's mouth of how they talk about themselves and how they talk about their reputation. So it's looking at somebody's network, knowing what questions to ask. It's not just because what I find as well, especially when I've had an inquiry come in and we jump on a consultation, the client just lets me talk. They don't know what to say, and they just say, "Oh, we'd love to find out a bit about you, and about the company and what you're doing." It's a pitch. Of course, I'm going to tell you all these amazing things,
Yeah.
but what I would like is the client to sit me down and grill me and say, okay, you know, God forbid we had rain on our wedding day. Like, how would you handle it? Have you had that kind of thing happen before? How did you
Yeah.
handle it? Come up with scenarios. It's about letting somebody talk you into it, making you feel comfortable. How comfortable do you feel? It's all gut feelings. I mean, might be a bit cliche, but base your decisions on gut feelings because that tells you a lot. It really does. So I guess that kind of tackles the whole booking people solely on price. And then the second part about the endless scroll,
Yes.
I think if you have a planner, then obviously that's going to come from your planner to kind of manage you and set the record straight in that respect. But if you're doing things by yourself, it's going to take a lot of willpower.
Yeah.
But if you've made a decision and you've locked something in, that's it, put it to bed. We have the opportunity now on social media to change your preferences. You can click the small dots and say, I don't want to see this anymore. And because it's the thief of comparison, we do that as ladies, seeing all these beautiful girls online. We do it. We do it in every respect. You might have bought yourself a brand new car and you're chuffed about it, and then somebody drives along in a brand new Mercedes G-Wagon, and all of a sudden, oh, you don't feel as good about your little Nissan Sunny anymore. So do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say. So I think protect yourself. Again, you've established a budget that's realistic for you. You've made decisions. Once you lock them in, put it to bed. Or maybe if you're still not sure, a couple of options, done, tick. You put it to bed and that's it. Because yeah, when we're lying in bed at night and we're scrolling and we're scrolling and we're scrolling, you can go, as I said in the reel, you can literally go from seeing personalized envelopes on the table to having these massive color bombs, confetti, all of this, everything's all singing, all dancing. And the more you scroll, the bigger and the better it gets. And
Yeah.
less you
Yeah.
feel.
And that's deliberate too.
Yeah.
That's the very effect of social media. So,
Yeah.
yeah, perhaps a future bride, a future groom. I don't know how. I mean, that's a beautiful way that you were talking about, like change your preferences on
Mhm.
social media,
Mhm.
unfollow what you don't need to see anymore. I
Yeah.
guess that's one really good way of filtering things.
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure. Yeah, it takes a lot of willpower. But also, something that I mentioned in the reel as well is don't just follow inspirational accounts and all these wedding blogs and everything that you see. Follow educational accounts as well. So follow planners who post educational content, follow wedding planning academies, anyone that posts kind of tips and people that keep it real, people that are quite transparent in the industry. And listen to the Unbridely podcast. There you go, there's a plug. But any online spaces that have professionals online that are talking about these topics regularly, this is the content that you should be consuming, especially if you are planning a wedding by yourself. Because again, like I said, people do this for a living. This is a profession. And if you're coming in without any prior knowledge, you might have the most creative brain. Maybe you've thrown some amazing dinner parties. Anyone can make a room look beautiful, but it's the experience and the knowledge behind it all. Try to limit the amount of inspirational content you consume and consume more educational content, because you never know when you kind of come across a tip that you might just need on your wedding day.
That's just absolutely brilliant. I love that, Laura. You have absolutely like leveled everyone with this particular Instagram reel and told them how to go about like a wedding that's not going to drain your bank account, sap your soul and just leave you a mess at the end. Do you have any sort of parting advice for couples getting married? Any last tips that you want to pass on?
Remember that you're the main characters of the day, and I think people get swallowed up in photos, in how people are going to feel, who did this last time, we need to do it better. Create a wedding that's uniquely you. Again, designed for feeling, not for aesthetics. And this is coming from a luxury wedding planner who has built huge
All the pretty things.
we've done huge productions. I've seen it all, like I said, and I will still tell even those clients that were planning weddings in the millions, still design for feeling. Does it represent you? Is it your day? How are people going to feel? Because this is what they remember. Like I said, good food, short speeches. They remember how they were felt. What's the flow of the events? These are all the things that guests remember. So yeah, design with intention, plan with intention, and remember it's your special day, and Instagram should be a memory book, it shouldn't be the end goal.
Full stop. Love it, Laura. Love it. So for those who are a little bit tempted to maybe delve a little bit further into wedding planning, what is your educational business?
We have a wedding planning academy called the Wed Ed, standing for Wedding Education. And we launched in July last year. We've actually gone global now. So in the US, Australia, UK, of course, the Middle East, where we're based, Africa. So it's amazing. We've got students from all around the world. And basically, it's an online platform that's split into 3 phases. The first phase is absolutely free, because your girl likes to be transparent.
Yes.
So myself and my business partner, Hannah, we co-founded the platform, and that's something that was very important to us at the beginning, is to really show people what they're walking into. So we made the first phase for free, which is basically tells you exactly what the wedding planning role is.
Nice.
And for people, that's not a get-rich-quick scheme. You know, you can reach amounts of success in this industry, but it takes a lot of work to get there. So we're very transparent, and it helps you realize, is this job really for me? Is it truly what I want? Once people have passed that stage, and after seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, am I still interested? Then, of course, then they go on to the paid academy, which is a one-time payment. And you have phases 2 and 3, which shows you the ropes from going from absolutely zero experience to then going on to be able to successfully start and scale your own wedding planning business.
Amazing. And all online, Laura?
All online. And it's, once you've signed up, it's yours, and you get access to any content that we add to it in the future. So you do it completely in your own time. There's a bunch of downloadables, templates. We even show you sort of how to do a wedding budget. All the formulas are worked out in a spreadsheet for you. So we really make it incredibly easy for you to start if you've never had any experience before.
That's great. And Laura, for those who are on the other side of the fence and who might be planning some sort of big corporate event, or they're getting married themselves and they're going, yeah, I'm flipping through Laura's Instagram. This is amazing. I need to do this. How do people find you?
So you can send me an email. It's laura@coutureeventsworldwide.com. Of course, I'm available on social media. I'm under TikTok as the Dubai Wedding Planner. And then Instagram, my handle is laur.shep, SHEP. LinkedIn, I'm also on there. I've got a big platform over on LinkedIn. So whatever
you're everywhere.
Is, I'm probably on there. If you want to send me pigeon mail, I also receive it.
Yeah, this is not a part-time gig for you, Laura. I'm getting the vibes. Yeah. Beautiful. Mate, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all your juicy knowledge. And have the very best season. You were saying that you're in the sort of booking season at the moment, and then you'll be taking off. What sort of month does everything take off in Dubai?
Our peak season is sort of from October to April time. I'd say our busiest months are sort of November and then February, March. That's probably peak months for weddings.
Yeah, same for Australia.
Yeah, it's because the weather's obviously a lot better. I mean, here in Dubai, the summer months can exceed 56 degrees Celsius. So yeah, it makes it difficult to...
Yeah, there's some fun outdoor celebrations that you're planning. Oh my God.
There's always one. We had one corporate event that went into June once, and I ended up with heat stroke, so never again.
You learn. Thank you so much, Laura, and have a great day.
You too.
That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.